So I can lay claim to being a software developer and an entrepreneur, but I also spent a lot of time working as a scientist. And one thing scientists get to do, let me get this. How do we start this? Yeah. All right. Like that?
Yes.
Yes. One thing scientists get to do is we get to ask stupid questions without feeling embarrassed about it. So my stupid question for the day is, what is a book? And so I'm going to talk about that. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about Unglued, which is a service that GlueJar will be unveiling soon. And this is the logo. It's its world debut, so you're the first to see our new logo. Well, so I asked Google, what is a book? And Google didn't know. It had a pretty good guess. It said it's like a garden carried in your pocket. And that's not really useful. It also said it was sort of like a loaded gun and like a frigate. And the one I didn't understand at all was a book is moved around once. I don't know about that. Well, so I found that the perspective that is most useful for answering this question is the perspective of a software developer. And software developers believe code is everything. And so when a developer looks at something like a media property, a book, or a newspaper, what we see is we see objects, we see actions or methods, we see streams of objects coming at us that we have to deal with. And you know, I'm also an entrepreneur, so there's also the meaningless symbols that we have to deal with in making the software viable. So in thinking about what a book is, let's look at some of examples of media that have successfully more or less managed the transition from being physical artifacts to being viable in a digital environment. So first, let's look at a newspaper. What is a newspaper when it's moved onto the internet? Well, this is the New York Times. And so as a software developer, you look at it and say, well, what are the important objects there? And you know, what are the actions that you're allowing a user to do? The objects, well, they're streams of articles. If every 15 minutes or so, the articles that the New York Times website shows you are different. There's streams of data. They'll show you the weather in Montclair, New Jersey, which is where I live, and it'll show you the latest stock prices. There's a photo. And then you look and see what are the, and of course, the New York Times as a website has to be sustainable, and so they have various ways to reap in some of those meaningless symbols. The actions on this website are, well, first of all, you have navigation actions, lots of ways to navigate around a rather large website. You have search boxes that help you find things on a big website. That's sort of any website nowadays has that stuff. And more websites have share functions that allow you to take what you see and spread it around to your friends. So, is this a newspaper? CNN used to be a cable channel, but when it moves onto the web, it looks an awful lot like the New York Times. And if you look at it from that same software developer's perspective, you see the objects are sort of the same. They're exactly the same streams of articles. You see streams of videos, because it is a cable TV site. And again, those are not fixed. They're coming at you, different every couple minutes. And you have the same photos that you saw on the newspaper site. So and of course, ways to make money. Same actions as well. You have navigation actions. You have the search boxes. And you have mechanisms to share these videos and articles and photos with your friends. So in at least these two examples, what we've seen is that when the newspaper and the cable channel move to the web, there's been a convergence. They both become websites. And they look, architecturally at least, very much alike. They're just websites. So, and if you just about any website you look at, it'll be more or less the same. Whether it's the New York Times or CNN or YouTube or Flickr or Wikipedia or whatever. All of these things are just orchestrations of objects and object streams and various actions that the users can do. So at this point, we know what a website is, at least what a website is in 2011. But we still haven't answered the question about what a book is. In the era of EPUB, the objects that purport to be books are an awful lot like websites as well. We saw Bill's picture of his sushi lunch. I like Bill, in Bill Kasdorf's words, EPUB 3 is a container masquerading as a format. But the container doesn't really make the book, or does it? It's not, I don't know. What is it about this container and this content that makes it an ebook rather than just another website? Well, if you look at the file format of EPUB, it looks a lot like the file format of it just has it has a directory structure and files, and just like any old website. So what we really want to, so if I were making a container and called it an ebook, this is the container that I would use. And if you think about it, books are like spaceships. They like take you to different places, completely different worlds. They can take you to the future. They can take you to the past. So the container of an ebook, you can think of the book as a container for taking you someplace totally different. So that's my view of that's my sushi lunch. We still haven't gotten very far at figuring out what books are. So the question to ask is, what sort of website, if ebooks in these new formats are really just websites contained in some way, well, what sort of websites are there? What makes them different from a website? So again, let's go back to the New York Times homepage, and let's see how much it would take to turn that into an ebook. Imagine that the New York Times decided that, oh, we'll send out an EPUB every day to replace the paper that you used to get. What would it look like if they had done that? Well, a lot of these things, because the container is trying to wrap up all the resources that the website needs to present its content, there are limitations on what kinds of stuff can go in it. So this is the New York Times as an ebook. We've taken a lot of the stuff out. And what kind of stuff have we had to take out? Well, this is what NewYorkTimes.com consists of, just from before. And when we convert it to an EPUB, well, instead of the streams of articles, we just have articles. Because all the resources have to be contained in the package, you're not getting streams anymore. You just have orchestrated arrangements of articles and photos and data. And the actions you can still put there with EPUB 3, navigation that you can put in there and search. A little bit harder to do share in the context of just the container. You need a reader platform to start doing that kind of stuff on. So why would you ever make an EPUB if it's just less than a website? What kinds of stuff works as an EPUB or a book or an ebook rather than just making a website? Well, I think a lot of people in this room have an intuitive feel for what books really are, and sometimes less is more. Without the network, there are a lot of things that not having that connection to the network gives us. It gives us more permanence, for example. A website that exists today may not look the same tomorrow, and the chances that you're going to be able to use that website in 100 years are minuscule, or at least they would be zero if not for the Internet Archive. No network gives you more independence. When I access a book over the network, I am reliant on my local router. I'm dependent on Verizon, and I'm dependent on all the ISPs in between my browser and the website that's delivering me the content, and I'm dependent on all the infrastructure that the website's running on. The only secure computer is a computer that's not connected to anything, so lack of a network adds a lot to security. Privacy is a big one. When you use the network to read something, there are all sorts of people who know about it. It's not, if I have something on a Kindle, it's not just Amazon that knows it, it's all the companies that are passing the data in between Amazon and me. And you know, Apple knows where I am when I'm reading it on my iPad and my iPhone. So the part of the cost of the network is the loss of privacy. And freedom is something that we give up when we tie ourselves to the network. I think in the Rick Perry administration, I don't know what he's going to let me read. And we've seen in the Arab Spring that countries are perfectly able to cut off the network, and if that meant people couldn't read things, that would not be good. The things that we think of as books don't inherently need a network. They're completed, they're finished, they're done. And it's that aspect of having all these objects, whether they're photos or texts or chapters or words, orchestrated by a group of people, including illustrators and authors and editors, and putting it in, honing it into a final product. The fact that the books are done is part of what they are. But remember back that meaningless symbol, the dollar? We have to have a way to pay for all these people who are working to compensate them, to reward them for producing these wonderful things. And if you look at, remember we had to take away the advertising and stuff to turn the New York Times into an EPUB. So that's a problem. So let's think about the different business models that have been used for ebooks. The one that seems to have the most traction right now is what I call pretend it's print. This model sort of doesn't use much of the special attributes of digital books. It lets only one person read it at a time and doesn't let you give your book away. But the advantage of these pretended print models is that they're compatible with the existing business of selling print books. And that's a very important thing, and we need to build up a new business before we kill off the old business. But in the long run, the pretended print model is dependent on mass delusion. It depends on false scarcity that's created by software completely artificially. And we all know that DRM reduces the usability and value of ebooks. And the worst thing from the business perspective is that all that DRM and network connectivity and maintenance costs a lot of money. You have to continue to, you have an ongoing expense of sales and marketing, and you have to pay to maintain all that infrastructure to deliver all these books. So this business model inherently needs the network in order to survive. Advertising is another business model that might work. One of the big problems with advertising, though, is that it's very incompatible with the existing business. If you're, in order to get enough eyeballs to pay, to have advertising pay, give you raise a significant amount of money, you have to basically give away the book. And if you have to give away the book, you're not going to be able to sell the book at the same time. So that's a problem. And it's not going to make that much money for you anyway, unless you have really huge audiences. Advertising also really needs the network, because a valuable advertisement is one that is relevant today and not a year ago. Subscriptions is another business model that could work. And I think it will be of increasing importance. But if you think about it, the subscription model lends itself to what libraries know as big deal market dynamics, which means that the large players have huge market power, and that's probably not good for publishers as well, to have to rely on the one big subscription provider to deliver books to the readers. So now I'm going to talk about Unglued, because it's a fourth a business model, and it's one that allows books to be set free, and that means free of the network, free of charge, and free in many other ways as well. And that's to sell the book to the public commons. So the basic idea of Unglued is to raise money to relicense books into Creative Commons. The easiest way to explain it is in analogy to the way that public radio is funded in the United States. It costs a lot to run a radio station, and so the radio stations raise money through pledge drives. And if they're able to raise the fixed cost to run the radio station, then all the programming can be free to everybody in the world, or at least in their listening area. Ebooks, being digital things, can be distributed at basically zero cost if you don't have to maintain that DRM infrastructure and everything. So if you have a way to raise the money to cover the fixed cost plus whatever profit the producers want, then the ebook can be given away free to everyone in the world. And that's kind of cool. So what Unglued will do is we will have a crowdfunding platform that will run pledge drives for individual books. We'll let readers that have already been published, we'll let readers choose which books they want to support to become open access to get relicensed with Creative Commons. And when if we are able to raise money for a book, we'll then release it. So crowdfunding models have been in vogue in the last 2 or 3 years. Kickstarter is the shining example in in creative endeavors, Indiegogo in music. An older model, which people have mentioned to me, is the Nature Conservancy, where people donate money to acquire land for public trust. So I think everyone in the room knows all the difficulties that there are between having, or that prevent us from making all the books that have been published free to the world, and most of them relate to copyright. Whole bunch of sticking points. In order to know whether something's in copyright or not, you have to know when it was published, who published it, who owns the rights now, what the relationship was of them when they actually produced the argument, losing my mind as well as my voice. And the rights may have been divided among territories and between ebook rights and print rights, and you have to do this not only in the United States, but in every jurisdiction in the world. So the result is that books are stuck. I see we have at least one programmer in the room. In order to make books world readable, we need some way to unstick them, or in the what we're calling the process, ungluing the books. So Unglued is going to be a marketplace for clearing these rights and make the ebooks world readable. The money that we raise will act as a solvent to get rid of all the glue that's sticking the books together so that they can't be used in the digital environment. Here's how it works. Suppose you're the rights holder of a book. This is, I don't know what this book is, something published in 1928. It's in copyright, but it can't be made digital. You don't have the money to do the conversion. You want to do a good job, but you want to see it out there. So what do? Well, you name your price, and you offer the rights to this book on the Unglued website. And then Unglued runs a fundraising campaign and tries to get people who care about the book to contribute to making it a world-readable ebook. So people support the book, and if enough people support the book to match the price set by the rights holders, then the book becomes unglued. And we do things like we put the epub, make an epub, put a Creative Commons attribution, non-commercial, non-derivative license on it, stick it in the Internet Archive, make an OPDS feed, make it available for LOCKSS archiving, mark records for libraries, and generally make it available to everybody. So I think this will work. And the reason is because I've been talking to people for this past year, and I asked them all the same question, and I want to ask it to you. Have you ever given a book to someone? Think about it, all right? Now, have you ever given the same book to multiple people? Well, in asking this question to lots and lots of people, I find that, yeah, people have these books that they want to share, that they want to give to people. And then I say, well, would you like to be able to give this book to the entire world? And then they say, oh, yeah, that's an interesting idea. And what I found is that people have this strange relationship to books. It's almost, people don't relate to books like they relate to other products. They relate to books like they relate to people. They have these irrational attachments to books. They store books in their houses 3 columns deep on bookshelves and piles, and they can't bear to get rid of these books because they're friends, they never read them, but they keep them around. And you know, it's love. And I think the way that we can move this irrational attachment to physical objects into the digital environment is to allow people to share the books. And anyone who knows anything about love knows that sharing is the best way to make love grow. So, sorry. So this is the end. You can contact me. I've been blogging about this stuff at Hellman. And the website is coming soon. It will be called Unglued. Thank you.
Time for one, maybe two questions. So if a publisher wasn't willing to do this themselves, they could post it on Bluejar, say for $8,000, we'd like to make this available. This long ago book, we'd like to bring back and make it available to the public, and then they would get the $8,000. Or can publishers use this as a means to make material available to the world as well as?
So are you asking whether publishers want revenue? Well, yeah, I mean, so we see this as a way for you know, at least to start, as a great way for publishers to start monetizing their backlists that are sitting, collecting dust and not really doing anything without risking, you know, the upfront capital to make the ebook. In our case, you'd raise the money first and made sure that the amount you raise is enough to cover the cost of producing the ebook or you may already have the ebook and you want to release it.
So Bluejar doesn't, I as a reader can't say, can you go talk to this publisher and find out how much it would cost?
Okay, so one of the things that supporters will be able to do on the Bluejar website is to make lists of books that they want to unglue. Wish lists, if you will. And so those wish lists aggregated over the entire base of supporters will give publishers an indication of the potential of particular works to be unglued. If you've got 10,000 people who want to support a particular book that is in your catalog, you're going to say, well, the numbers work out for me. You know, it's a no-brainer. We're going to do it.
So we need to move to the next speaker, but there'll be time at the break if people want to come up. So thank you.
Thank you again.